Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
At this time, I'd like to introduce our speaker from sunny Las Vegas, Ruth J.
Yes, are we on? Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Ruth. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Ruth.
And I'm a member of the second edition group in Las Vegas, Nevada. We meet 7 days a week at 6:45 in the morning. In the Summerlin area, you're welcome to visit us anytime. We have good sobriety in that one. If you're new, and I saw quite a few fairly new people, if you're returning to Alcoholics Anonymous, or if you're just feeling new, I want to tell you, you're 12 steps away from a new way of life if you want it. That's the good news. The bad news is that you have to do it. Nobody can do it for you. Those of you that heard Bill the other night, you heard him tell you how important and what a milestone the alcoholism stamp was. I happen to have mine with me. For those that weren't here or wants to see one, it was an 18-cent stamp. You're welcome to look at it, but I don't want it to disappear.
18 cents.
My favorite step is the 11th step because it gives me direction on just what I need to pray for. My favorite tradition is the third tradition because it lets anybody with a desire to stop drinking in. Doesn't matter what other problems you might have. And it doesn't even say whose desire, because it wasn't my desire when I first got here. It was definitely somebody else's. I was born and raised in New York City. I was told I had a privileged upbringing because I went to a private school in New York City. I'm a product of a 100% alcoholic family. Both of my parents died of this disease. My mother before I got sober, my father after I got sober, and he never really believed I was sober. I had about 9 years, 10 years at the time. My sister has 26 years sober, and my son, who's 51, has struggled for 20, 25 years, off and on, in and out, or whatever. So I hope someday he makes it. I can't do it for him, however. I certainly didn't think it was that big of a problem for me. I understood that alcohol was creating some problems, but I had a time when alcohol did not create any problems for me, and I didn't even drink regularly. I kind of think of myself as a freeze-dried alcoholic. I had to add enough alcohol to really blossom into a full, and then it only took 5 or 6 years for me to become a full-blown alcoholic. But in my teenage, I wasn't with a big drinking crowd at all, and it wasn't a problem back then. Probably didn't even have a drunk until my mid-20s, so I was kind of a late starter. But 5 or 6 years of alcoholism, and I was in trouble. I was in trouble at work. I had good jobs. I had an education. I was a nurse. I was a director of nursing in Las Vegas. I'd been married for about 10 years then, and I had a husband who didn't drink like I did. And so I was in trouble there too. And there came a time in 1970 when he said, or both of them, my boss and my husband said, "We would like to invite you out of your positions with us." And that kind of gets your attention. And my husband said he didn't really care where I went, whether I went to the locked ward in the county hospital or whether I went to the women's recovery home. And of course, I didn't want anybody holding the keys over me. If anything, I wanted the keys around my waist and controlling somebody else. So I picked the women's recovery home. And the home is called the We Care Foundation, We Care Home in Las Vegas, and next year we'll celebrate 55 years of continuous service to women alcoholics in the Las Vegas area. And we take no state or federal funds. It's an old-fashioned 12-step recovery home, and most of the fundraising is done by the board. We do charge a reasonable fee, which you have to do nowadays if you don't take federal funds. But probably I've seen 4,000 or 5,000 women go through since I went through, and I can tell you there are not 4,000 or 5,000 of them sober in Las Vegas. Some of them are probably sober somewhere else, and we take the women from 3 different courts. And the women who come to us from the courts, this is their 3rd time, either on drugs and alcohol and or prostitution, and they're given the choice of coming to We Care for 30 days or going to jail. And not all of them choose We Care. Some choose jail because they've been there before and they know what it is. But once in a while, 1 or 2, one just celebrated 5 years, a couple of them celebrated 2 years. You never know. I don't take bets on people anymore as who's going to make it and who's not. I know everybody at the table isn't going to make it, but I don't know who it is. The last time I had to say yes or no to somebody coming into one of those, the recovery home, it was her 7th admission, and she never was a problem. She paid her bill. She was a good worker, but I thought we were just being a revolving door for her, and I thought it probably wouldn't do her any good. That was the time she got sober for the rest of her life. So I don't take bets on people anymore. My husband deposited me at this, the door of this place, and I, very arrogant, after 24 hours, you had to have 24 hours of sobriety, and I knew he'd hidden the last can of beer in the house, and I went for a hunt. And I can tell you I won the hunt, but and that was my last drink on the 25th of June, 1970, was a warm can of Ham's beer. Yummy. So he deposited me the next day at the door, and I hallucinated that night as I got sober. I shook, and I hallucinated, and I saw a very large spider going up the dresser, and I saw a man in the doorway, just in the middle of the night, a man in the doorway who followed me to the bathroom. Now, I knew those were not real things, but I've kept them fresh in my mind because I don't care to see them again. And you might think 45 years is a long time, but I go to meetings at that recovery home to remind me what I looked like when you have Mrs. Mad at the end of the table glaring at you like this, because that's what I was like. And I smile at them and they glare back. And, you know, I love you, sorry, you can't do anything about it. And some of them change by the time they get to the other end of the table in their 30 days. But in any case, he dropped me off, and I very arrogantly said to him, "You can pick me up tomorrow, I'll be fine." Now, he swore after that he had told me it was a 30-day stay. Fortunately, that didn't register in my mind, or he might have had a fight on his hands, but so I did. I went in, and of course I was welcomed, and I was mad. I didn't want to end up there. I knew what alcoholics were. I'd taken care of them in hospitals. I knew what we do to ourselves when we're dying of our disease. I had no concept of people who didn't drink anymore, though. That was not in my mind. So the first week or 10 days, I was pretty standoffish. It was just leave me alone. I don't think I need to be here, and I don't want what you have. And then something happened while I was there, I'm not quite sure what it was, but they didn't want to hear my story at all when I would say, but I'm different, but I have this, but, and they didn't want to hear because, of course, we've heard it all before. It doesn't matter what you have. It's what you're doing to your life that counts. And finally, I just gave up, and I decided, all right, I'll show you. I'm going to do everything you have told me to do in here, and I'm going to show you it doesn't work for me. And so here I stand 45 later, showing you that it doesn't work for me. It works one day at a time, and the good news is you don't ever have to drink again, even if you want to. You don't have to. And you only have to do it today. At first, to me, that meant if I want to drink, I can drink next week. I just can't drink today. And I would look forward to next week. And then when that day would come, I didn't want to drink today. Well, maybe when I get 6 months, I'll drink, but not today. When I got 6 months, no, I didn't feel like drinking that day. Maybe I will when I get a year, I'll celebrate. I could not envision not drinking, certainly 45 years, but any amount of time, more than 6 weeks. I'd given it up for Lent one time, and that was the longest I'd gone without drinking. So you can, even if you want to drink, you don't have to drink today. And I've used that for a lot of other things too. I was taught that early, and we had, when I was in the We Care house, there was a housekeeper there who wore a faded cotton dress. Her dentures were uncomfortable, so she usually only wore the bottom and not the top. And she would come and say to us every morning, "Is everything in divine order?" Well, I don't know about you, but in my first 30 days, there wasn't a hell of a lot in divine order. But of course, the answer is yes. Everything is in divine order. And she taught me things, important things in my life, that like, I don't know why you're arguing about it. He's going to get his way anyway. Why don't you just let him? And how to love people without having to like them or like what they're doing, but to love them because they're sick like I was sick. And and I'm responsible for carrying the message, not the mess and not the body, which takes a little practice sometimes, because I think in the enthusiasm of early sobriety, we think everybody needs it. Let me go get them all in here and we'll get them all sober. And it just doesn't work that way. My first year, I got, they told me if I was grateful for my sobriety, I owed Alcoholics Anonymous 2 things. And one was a little money in the basket if I could afford it, and that wasn't mandatory. And there were times when I really couldn't afford it, or I'd only put a quarter in. And the other was I owed Alcoholics Anonymous some time, because somebody was here to see that the tables and the chairs were set up before I came, and that the literature was there, and there were people to greet me, whether I wanted to be greeted or not. And so I owed some time back. Well, time I could pay back. So when in a few months, 3 months or so, I became a secretary of a group, and I felt like I was beginning to give back to what I had gotten. But the funny thing was, when I did these things to give back, like get the literature and open the meeting, and back then we had donuts and we smoked and drank in the meetings, and so it was washing the ashtrays and the cups and whatever. I felt like I was beginning to give things back, and I got hooked. And so I did some other service things too. I gave rides to people who couldn't drive for whatever reason. I went on 12-step calls, the old-fashioned kind, where you go to the house with another person, in most cases with another person, and see what could have been. What could have been. One of my most graphic ones in Las Vegas, it was a couple. And so a guy and I went, the 2 of us, and it was 2 people who'd been in and out of AA, and 2 large dogs, all of whom had been locked up for a week in the house. Do I have to get any more visual than that? Or tell you about the odors or the condition of the people who hadn't had a bath or a shower and had erupted at both ends, plus the animals. So if you want to see what we can become, I recommend you go on a 12-step call if you're new with somebody that's got some sobriety, and it gives you a very good picture of what can be. And they got sober again for a little while. I don't know what happened to them after that, but I stayed sober. I was convinced I didn't want to end up like that. I didn't want to repeat. They told me I don't have to repeat my 30 days again if I don't want to, and so far I haven't wanted to. And I've kept the things that they taught me in those early days fresh, because I'm afraid if I don't, what might happen. I've had a lot of sober holidays, and at first you worry about what am I going to do when the holidays come, and you mean I can't drink champagne at my daughter's wedding? My daughter was 12 years old when I got sober. It wasn't, no, give me a break. I hadn't got the one day at a time in my mind yet. But I've had a lot of sober holidays, and I can tell you, I don't really remember them all, but I have not forgotten my last drunken Christmas, because I don't want to repeat it. It wasn't pretty, and I wasn't good for the family, and I had to have some Seagram 7 or something in the coffee to begin with. I had to put the turkey, and I guess I cooked it all. I guess I served it all. I don't know whether I ate with them. I have no idea what happened after that. I was a blackout drinker. Fortunately, most of the time I got myself to bed, but I really didn't know because I was a blackout drinker. I should have known. He would have told me if I hadn't gotten myself to bed, but I wasn't about to ask. And I also had telephonitis. Did you ever, in the middle of the night, know that your best friend wants to hear from you at 2 a.m.? Most of the time, they don't. And sometimes she would call me back the next day and say, do you know what you told me last night? And I was like, no, I don't want to know what I told you last night. I'm so sorry. I had a little too much to drink. Yes, right. So those are the fun things that I keep alive in my mind because I don't want to repeat them. What's happened to me in my life is not a lot of difference in the external part of, I was a nurse. When I retired, I had been a nurse for 45 years. I worked some in detox and care units, but most of my last 25 years I worked in home health as a nurse executive in the field. So I had some education. I was able to, because I believe that we can recover from this disease. I also paid back my profession by helping the nursing board with some of the nurses that are on restricted licenses. I was so grateful. All they did was fire us when I got sober, because now there's a 5-year process in Nevada if you're a nurse. And so for 13 years, I facilitated a group of very mad nurses who had their licenses pulled, but I could help them because I knew what they were going through. And I also served on other nonprofit boards besides the home that I went through. I joined that when I had 4 years sobriety and have been on the board of that ever since. Make sure that it's still there for people like me who didn't want it at the time. And it's still there. And there's several of us, 3 or 4 of us, long-time gals there. I've learned that the world does not revolve around me. I know when I was drinking, I thought I was a giving person. I was giving as long as my motives were okay, getting what I wanted. I would do your shopping, I would do your cleaning, I would do your cooking, but it was only so I could get my drinking time. I drank in Las Vegas. I was a home drinker mostly because one time I came out of a blackout on the way home from downtown Las Vegas. I'd been in a casino, and I knew drinking and driving didn't mix. So I gave up driving, and I went and bought it home. That's the only reason that I really didn't get in trouble on the road or anyplace else. I had to learn some hard facts about myself after my first couple of years. First year wasn't too difficult for me. Even though my husband left after 11 months, he thought I should be recovered after 3, certainly after 6 months. I shouldn't have to spend all the time that I was spending in Alcoholics Anonymous. And how come he couldn't have done something for me? And he didn't go to Al-Anon, of course. But how come I couldn't have gotten sober just on his wish? And As we know, that's not how it works. And he said, you know, your mother died of the disease. Why do you drink? Well, I didn't know why I drank. I drank because I was an alcoholic. That's why. And he didn't care to have an alcoholic wife, and he didn't think he could trust me anymore. And I didn't think I wanted to stay married to somebody who didn't trust me. So we parted ways, and we're good friends now. He's back in Milwaukee, where he's from, and the only time I hear from him is when our son is drunk and calls his father and says, my mother doesn't love me anymore, she won't talk to me, and he calls me and says, what's going on? And I say, I've told him not to call when he's drunk. I don't want to talk to him. There's nothing I can do for him. And I have to remind him what he did to me. And he apologizes, and I said, don't apologize, you did exactly the right thing. You brought the brick wall right up to me, and that's the thing you have to do for your son too. You have to not take his calls and not listen to that, because that's not what's going on. I've served in some service positions, which for me is where I found my niche for paying back Alcoholics Anonymous. And we heard, those of us that were lucky enough to be here, we heard Raimundo's delegates report. I heard my delegates report in May when he first came back. And we're always talking about new pamphlets and new books and things. But just from my experience, no matter what we do in Alcoholics Anonymous, we are still more successful one-on-one in person than through any book or any pamphlet that we can ever come up with. And that is in recovery, and that is in service too. If you want to carry the message to professionals or jailers or doctors or whatever, we make a bigger impression in person than we do with a piece of pamphlet. So remember that pamphlets are nice aids, but they're not the answer to how we should, as alcoholics, carry the message. If that was true, all we'd have to do is send the big book to anybody who asks, and they should get sober. And it just doesn't work that way. The things have not been, I don't want you to think that I'm perfect. You don't get perfect, and there is no time when I've thought, or there was a brief time at about 10 years when I thought, well, I should be okay now, I should be all right. And somebody pushed the wrong button, and I was off and screaming and yelling like a banshee, and had to apologize to another AA member, and it happened again at 16 years, so I had some work to do on myself. I think God only lets us know what we need to work on when we're ready to visit it, and fortunately he held off on those things for a while. And I know the difference between shortcomings and character defects. I know you have character defects, I have a few shortcomings. And that's how you tell the difference between those. I hope Alcoholics Anonymous always welcomes anybody who thinks they may have a drinking problem. I don't think we have to worry that somebody wrong is going to come in. And even if we do, I think I'd rather let one person in who is not an alcoholic than to ever leave anybody out who is an alcoholic. And we have to sometimes give them a chance to discover that. I'll tell you one wonderful story that I'm so proud of a couple of years ago with this amount of sobriety and how adult I can be, and it's called my Target story. That's the store Target, and what a wonderful example of Alcoholics Anonymous and recovery I would have been that day. I was that day, actually. I don't know if they do here, but in Las Vegas, when you get the flyers for all the food things once a week, and on Target, if you bought some toilet paper and some paper towel, you got a $5 gift certificate. And I was into that. I was doing that for a while. I went to the Target store, not my usual one, and I picked up the toilet paper, and I picked up the paper towels, and I went to check out, and I was supposed to get 2 gift cards, and she only gave me 1. And I tried to point out to her nicely that it said here, 2 gift cards. And she said, well, I rang it up and it only shows 1. This is unfortunately a new trainee that I'm picked on to show my best side. And She said, it only shows up one. I said, well, that's not what it says in the paper. And we went at it like that for maybe a minute or two, and then my voice got a little louder and a little more strident, and I saw the security guard move over a little closer to the checkout, and I saw the manager coming, and the manager said, here, let me see what I could do. And she looked at it, and she looked at what I brought up there, and I had the wrong item. I had the wrong item. Well, you know what I had to do. So sorry. I'm so sorry. I apologize. I'm sorry, whatever. But I still felt terrible after that. But I use that as an example because I don't think at any time any of us become angels and perfect. Certainly I know I'm not an angel and perfect. And it's a reminder. Usually something like that, I would be a lot more patient, but that day I wasn't, for whatever reason. And it can pop out right away. There are certain people that can push a button, and I know who they are, and if I'm faced with that person who's good at pushing a button, I have a little switch in the back of my head if I can remember to flip it on. And the little switch, when I flip it on, it says to me, keep your mouth shut, keep your mouth shut, keep your mouth shut. And when I can remember to put it on, it works. There's also the 3 S's when you're faced with somebody like that, and that is smile, step back, walk away, and so that you don't engage the person. I also can say, I understand what you're saying, but I don't agree with you. I understand what you're saying, but I don't agree with you, because the person will come back and say, but you don't understand. But you don't understand. I mean, I understand. I understand what you're saying. I just don't agree with you. And sometimes you have to say it up to 8 or 10 times before they get the message. But they eventually get the message that you're not going to jump in. With all the things that go on in the world today, I can't imagine of having a better life than I have had in Alcoholics Anonymous. The traveling I've been able to do, the people maybe that I've been able to touch, and you never know. Somebody came to our home group a few years ago, a guy, I don't remember seeing him, he said, after the meeting, he said, I'm celebrating 8 years today, and 8 years ago, on September 24th, I came to this meeting, and you said to me, you don't ever have to drink again, even if you want to. And he said, I stayed sober every day since then. You never know when what you're going to say, just routine stuff, is going to hit the right person. So keep sharing whatever you have to share. We each have different stories. Some people need a lot of tender, loving care. Joy kind of talked about she needed a lot of tender, loving care that she hadn't gotten early on, and that's the way Al-Anon greeted her. And sometimes that's the way some of us in AA greet new people. I was not one of those people that needed tender, loving care. I was the kind that needed a good smack alongside my head and get down off your high horse. And so I work best with people like that. I don't take somebody that needs a lot of tender, loving care. I know people who do very well with them, and that I kind of guide them that way. I want somebody that I can say to, damn it, either swallow that piece of meat or spit it out, but quit chewing on it. So I hope you can see that I've enjoyed my sobriety. It's enriched my life. I hope it's enriched other people's lives, but I have a great life, and I'm able to travel overseas at least once a year most of the time, and go to the beach in the summer, and off to Florida to see my sister in October. And if I wasn't sober, I probably wouldn't have been alive. I'd probably be in the mental institution, because I was relatively young when I got sober, and it probably would have been my brains that had been a wet brain. I took care of a woman who was 34 years old. I was 32 when I came in, so I'm getting close to 80, but she was 34, and she had a wet brain, and all she could do all day long was sing the same song over and over again. Physically, she was perfect. And she had to be told when to get dressed and when to go to breakfast. And all she did was sing this song. It was Mary Ann. I even remember her singing that song. And I thought, what a waste. But I didn't apply it to me. And I didn't apply that first drink. The other thing was, from early on, is I got it with potato chips. You can't eat just one. I didn't get it with alcohol. I didn't buy potato chips. But I didn't get that with alcohol. That was different. With all the things that there are in the world, though, so little that we really control other than ourselves, and sometimes, as you know, that's difficult, I've told you. You can't control yourself all the time, but there are certain things in this world that you can control. I don't know what it is in your life. In my life, it's how you hang the toilet paper. That is very important. I see there's some people who identify with that. Yes. And if you're not sure, if you invite me to your house, you will be sure when I leave. But I have recovered a bit from that because I used to do it in airplanes, and I don't have to do it anymore in airplanes. Very difficult, they're very tight in economy. In first class, they're much easier. You can get a hold of it. And I'm happy to report that this hotel knows how to hang the toilet paper, at least in the stall I was in and in my room. So I hope, and I know a lot of people, from now on, when you see toilet paper, you might think of me, and I don't mind at all. So I hope you've have as much fun with your sobriety, and all you have to do to start on this journey is just not drink today. Thanks so much.
Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst and one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if That shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.